Have you ever looked at someone who seems utterly unbreakable and thought, I wish I could be that strong? In an age where never give up is tattooed across social media and resilience is celebrated as the ultimate virtue, there's a powerful allure to becoming the person who cannot be broken no matter how fierce the storm. Figures like David Goggins, ex-Navy SEAL, ultra-endurance athlete, and motivational icon embody this cultural ideal of the superhuman. But for every headline about conquering pain and adversity, there is a quieter, more unsettling question. What does it truly cost to become unbreakable? And what darkness lingers behind the mask of invincibility? This is not just the story of a man who transformed suffering into strength, but a meditation on what lies beneath the armor we build to survive. Is the pursuit of unbreakable resilience always a triumph, or can it hide deeper wounds, ones that we rarely dare to face? In exploring the life and philosophy of David Goggins, we find not only a blueprint for pushing beyond limits, but also a cautionary tale about the shadows that come with extraordinary toughness. The journey into Goggins' brutal truths is as much about understanding the limits of human endurance as it is about questioning whether there are some breaks that we should not try to mend at any cost. David Goggins' transformation into an icon of toughness did not begin with privilege or talent, it was forged in the fires of adversity. His childhood reads like a harrowing case study in survival. Growing up in a household marked by violence, poverty, and relentless fear, Goggins faced abuse from his father and the suffocating pressures of racism in small-town America. As a boy, he was not the embodiment of strength, but rather a portrait of vulnerability, overweight, struggling in school, and haunted by nightmares that seeped into his waking life. It's easy to romanticize the rise from the ashes narrative, but for Goggins, those ashes were real and ever-present, each day a test of endurance just to make it through. Yet it is from this crucible that his obsession with becoming unbreakable emerged. When the world offered him only pain and exclusion, Goggins began to cultivate what psychologists call resilience, the ability to adapt and thrive despite hardship. But resilience is not just about surviving. It often springs from a deep need to defend oneself against further harm. For Goggins, each physical trial and self-imposed challenge became a shield against the chaos of his early life. The harder he pushed his body, the more he could control the pain, turning suffering into a kind of armor. Beneath this drive lies a universal human truth. When we are wounded, we seek ways to ensure we never feel powerless again. Defense mechanisms, those unconscious psychological strategies, kick in, helping us cope with overwhelming emotions or trauma. For some, it's withdrawal or denial. For others, like Goggins, it's a relentless march into discomfort, a refusal to let pain dictate the terms of existence. But as we'll see, the line between healthy resilience and the urge to outrun our demons can blur, raising the question of whether becoming unbreakable is always the gift it appears to be. The cost of unbreakability is rarely visible from the outside. David Goggins' legendary feats, completing Navy SEAL Hell Week 3 times, running ultramarathons on fractured legs, pushing his body past what even doctors considered safe, are often told as triumphs of mind over matter. But beneath the headlines and viral quotes lies a brutal toll, paid not just in sweat but in blood, bone, and psyche. Physically, the pursuit of being unbreakable meant subjecting himself to chronic injury, exhaustion, and pain that lingered far beyond finish lines. Goggins has spoken openly about broken bones, heart defects, and the grueling aftermath of his exploits, yet for years, he refused to slow down. In the relentless pursuit of more, the pain became a companion, almost a proof of life. Scientific studies suggest that extreme endurance athletes often experience not only physical damage but also changes in brain chemistry, stress hormone levels, and even perception of pain, sometimes leading to dangerous numbness rather than true strength. But the deeper wounds are often invisible. The trauma of Goggins' past did not vanish as his muscles grew or his resume lengthened. Instead, new forms of suffering emerged: chronic insomnia, episodes of depression, and the haunting presence of post-traumatic stress. Pushing pain away through ever greater feats became a double-edged sword. It built resilience but also risked emotional shutdown, a phenomenon psychologists call toxic resilience. In this state, the very strength that protects us can become a cage, making vulnerability seem like failure and leaving no space to process grief, doubt, or longing. The world often applauds those who push past human limits, but rarely pauses to ask what is left behind. For Goggins, being unbreakable did not erase his scars, it gave them new shapes. In our culture of extreme self-improvement, his story is both inspiration and warning. Resilience at all costs can exact a price far higher than most realize. There's a seductive power in the idea of forging oneself into steel, but even the hardest metal can crack under the right pressure. The narrative of unbreakable strength often ignores a crucial distinction. Is relentless toughness a true act of courage, or sometimes a subtle form of avoidance? For David Goggins, and many who walk similar paths, charging headlong into pain can become a way to drown out the quieter, more persistent ache of unresolved wounds. At the heart of this lies a paradox. On one hand, Goggins' philosophy is rooted in undeniable bravery. His willingness to face discomfort, shatter perceived limits, and embrace suffering has motivated millions. Yet on the other, this philosophy can skirt dangerously close to denial. There is a risk that never give up morphs into never feel, and that emotional vulnerability is painted as weakness rather than humanity. Modern psychology warns that suppression of pain or emotion, no matter how skillfully masked, often resurfaces in unexpected ways: anxiety, burnout, alienation from self and others. Across cultures, ancient wisdom offers a counterpoint. In Eastern philosophy, the idea that softness overcomes hardness is not a call for weakness, but for adaptability and balance. Water carves stone not by force but by persistence and subtlety. In contrast, the unyielding quest to be unbreakable can leave a person brittle, more prone to fracture when the right storm comes. For Goggins, charging into pain became his superpower, but he also confesses to moments of emptiness, periods when the darkness he outran caught up with him at last. This tension between armor and openness, between overcoming and understanding, is at the core of what makes his story so compelling and so cautionary. True resilience may not always be about refusing to break, but about learning to heal, acknowledging our limits, honoring our pain, and recognizing that sometimes the bravest act is to let ourselves be human. If we look beyond the inspirational highlight reel, another shadow emerges: the culture of constant self-improvement and the pressure to always be on. Social media thrives on stories of extraordinary perseverance, turning figures like Goggins into living proof that weakness is a choice. The darker side is subtle but pervasive, a creeping sense of inadequacy among those who struggle, who can't summon unbreakable willpower on command. In trying to live up to these ideals, many people find themselves quietly collapsing under the weight of their own expectations. Goggins himself, in rare moments of reflection, acknowledges the price of this lifestyle. He warns of the danger in glorifying only the pain while ignoring the need for rest, connection, and self-compassion. His own advice has evolved. Instead of chasing invincibility, he now encourages facing your darkness, embracing discomfort not as a destination, but as a way to understand what truly drives you. His journey is a reminder that becoming unbreakable is not about denying your cracks, but about learning to live with them, and perhaps even drawing strength from what they reveal. Ultimately, the quest to become unbreakable is a search for control, a shield against the chaos and unpredictability of life. Yet in chasing that ideal, we risk losing something vital: the capacity to feel, to connect, and to recognize when it's time to rest rather than push forward. David Goggins' life is a paradoxical mirror for us all. His relentless drive has produced achievements that defy belief, but it has also exposed the hidden costs of living without pause. For every medal, every finished race, there were sleepless nights, battered joints, and private struggles that few could see. What, then, can we truly learn from his journey? Perhaps the most important lesson is not about copying his feats, but about questioning our own motivations. Are we striving for strength out of courage, or are we fleeing from old wounds? Is our resilience a source of liberation, or is it a cage that keeps us locked in cycles of suffering? Real power, it turns out, is not just the ability to withstand pain, but the wisdom to know when to soften, to yield, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. In the end, Goggins' story is not just one of superhuman endurance, but a very human struggle. It reminds us that every act of toughness has a shadow, and every shield we raise can also isolate us from ourselves and others. True strength lies in balance, in learning to bend as well as to stand firm, to heal as well as to endure. The invitation is not to become unbreakable at any cost, but to discover what it means to be whole. As you reflect on the brutal truths behind becoming unbreakable, consider this: what does real strength look like in your own life? Where are the lines between perseverance and self-compassion, between pushing on and knowing when to let go? The answers may not be simple, but the search for them is what makes us resilient, not because we cannot break, but because we dare to grow after we do.